Okay, this is now tarot lesson number 65, and today is a difficult day. I'm going to look at this 9 card spread and look at a contribution from Anne, but I'm sort of low energy today, and I'm wondering why. So maybe because Nottingham Forest beat Liverpool 1-0 at the weekend, and I couldn't believe it because I like Liverpool, and they beat Manchester City, and then they go to Nottingham and they just don't play at all. And I have to stop watching football or caring about football, because when Liverpool win, I'm all excited and happy and I read all sorts of reports. But when they lose, I just, life loses all meaning. I'm kind of exaggerating. But I wondered why I liked Liverpool so much. And then I realised a while ago, I was born about midnight in a little village in Ayrshire. And it was a Sunday night at midnight. And there were like 3 people awake. There was my parents who were in. I was born at home. My parents were there. Obviously, my mother was there. But the doctor who delivered me was Dr. Russell, and Dr. Russell came from Liverpool. He wanted to get away from a big city and move to somewhere smaller, so he ended up where I was born. And maybe that made me think, maybe that's the connection with Liverpool, that I have an affinity for Liverpool and the football team, and it makes me wonder. And so for you, not so much who was the doctor who delivered you, but the other thing is I was born at midnight on a Sunday, and we were probably the only 3-4 people awake. And I like peace and quiet. I really do. If there's noise, I can't stand it. And I like it. I like to get up. When my children were here, I would get up at 5 a.m. and sit in the dark in the living room when nobody else is around and enjoy the peace and quiet. Whereas my daughter was born in Toronto on a Monday afternoon about 2:00, and she's happy with activity and people and going out and about and people being busy all the time. So maybe for you, think about or find out the kind of the day of the week you were born and what time of day it was and where in a small town or a large city, and see if you can relate that type of atmosphere to the kind of atmosphere where you are most comfortable. And I think it means as well that if you're like my daughter, put her, she sort of needs and likes activity and busyness all the time, not so much all the time, but she needs a lot of it, or she's comfortable with a lot of it, whereas I like peace and quiet. Anyway, so if you remember from lesson number 64, I did this 9-10 card spread. So we've got this is the questioner in the past, the questioner in the present, and the questioner in the future. And I wanted to look just at these 3 cards, because if we look, we've got the 7 of Swords. So we've got 2 swords stuck in the ground. The person's holding 5 swords in a kind of awkward way. In the Hermit, on the other hand, we've got a staff in one hand, held correctly, so to speak, and a lamp in the other. And then at the end, we've got the Page of Swords holding 1 sword. So I think if you do this spread for yourself and you look at the 3 cards for past, present, and future, you get an idea of what's going on with the person. So we've got here, let's say, at a certain point in the past, there were 2 things that were settled, maybe, because the 2 swords stuck in the ground. 2 things were settled, they were ordered, they were for sure, they were known about. But what was more interesting was the 5 swords in the hand, wanting to do new things, wanting to try new things, wanting to move on from where they actually were or where they had become established. And then in the present, we've got the Hermit. So we've got a change from swords to the baton. So this desire for change or desire for maybe excitement or for more variety leads to wisdom. So the person is more knowledgeable or more wise now, having been through, we had the Three of Cups reversed, which is disappointment, the Emperor, which is maybe strength and determination, and then death. So we've got a new beginning. So with the Seven of Swords, the first steps are difficult because the Three of Cups is upside down, but it doesn't hold them back, and they go from strength to strength, and now they're wise, so to speak. But in order to get from here, where you've got a baton in the left hand and a lamp here in the future card with the Page of Batons, we've got two hands again holding one sword, as if the person is meant to contract what they're doing, go from 5 swords in the hand to 1 sword in the hand. So maybe they're meant to not simplify, but focus, going from 5 to 1. And maybe that's what the wise part of the self, represented by the hermit, is going to is the message that the hermit is going to give to the future self. So rather than try to do, people talk about multitasking, right? But rather than multitask, as you think you can handle here, because I say you think you can handle because the card is upright. If it had been upside down, you know you can't handle multitasking, but it's upright. So you think you can do multiple things all at the same time, or quickly shift from one thing to another. But with the Page of Swords in the future, the indication is you can't. So rather than try to do multiple things, maybe you stick to one thing at a time. Doesn't mean you've got to finish every task, but instead of quickly chopping and changing, maybe you need a structure. And this can be what this King of Swords represents, because the first card, the immediate future, speaking of which, this is the immediate future, the medium future, midterm, or mid-time, and that's a more distant future. But it occurred to me, you can, this is maybe this afternoon, that's tonight, and that's tomorrow. So if you get the Devil reversed and the Eight of Swords reversed, it doesn't mean that you're doomed for multiple months at a time, right? So you can probably get an idea of how long we're talking about from the cards themselves. So if you see difficult cards here in the future, don't think automatically that it's going to be really difficult for an extended period of time, because it may be, but it could equally well be over in a day, morning, afternoon, evening. And that's the future, because it's later this morning, this afternoon, and tonight. So I'm thinking about, if you look at these 3 cards together, then you get an idea of the flow in the life of the questioner. So we're going from multiple projects, let's say, through a little bit of reflection and thinking it through, to being more focused on maybe doing a good job with each individual project, rather than trying to get it finished just so you can move on to the next thing. And the other thing is the card that, so we've got these 3 cards. The way you this 10th card, the Ten of Swords reversed, is how these 3 cards blend. I'm taking this out for the moment, and I'll get rid of these. So what do we do with the 10th card? It's the blend of these 3 cards, and it's a bit like, because of the nature of the Ten of Swords upside down, we've got swords here, swords here, sword here, and it's as if this is not going to be easy, because this is a card of ruin and upset, and 10 is 1 plus nothing, gets you back to 1 again, but it's upside down. So you're going to try and make a new beginning. The Magician was here, but it's going to take you longer than you think. So don't rush. Don't be impatient. Or if you are impatient, you're just going to get in your own way. And you have a good reason for, it's good to say to people most of the time, don't be impatient. But sometimes you're supposed to be impatient because otherwise you just let things slide. But here, because of the Ten of Swords reversed, this is going to be difficult to put these three together. So you have to be patient. And maybe this can be the other reason for the single sword at the end here. And 10 is 1 plus nothing, gives you a single sword. So the future really looks as if it's in the hands of this Page of Swords. And it gives you, and because pages represent young people and who lack experience, that's another factor to include in the answer, that not only should you be patient, but you should also appreciate that you don't know that much, even if you know a lot. In this instance, at this time and coming up, you're going to be kind of in the dark to some extent. So don't expect, if they had got here, if we got the Hermit there and the Page of Swords here, that's different because you're a major trump in the future, you know a lot. But here with the Page, you don't know that much. So Anne she had done this spread. And if I can get it, it began with the Tower reversed, and then we got the Eight of Cups, the Two of Swords, the Empress, the Moon, the King, the Magician, which is why I took it from the other reading, the Magician, the King of Pentacles reversed, the Ten of Pentacles reversed, and the Seven of Coins. And then the blend was the Page of Cups. So she wanted to know about using cards because there were a couple of things she wasn't sure about. And I can't remember what they were because I read her email but didn't really understand the comment she left. But anyway, should we use cards for clarification? And I think not. And that's because we tend to see what we want to see or what we expect. So if we are looking on the dark side and we get a kind of middling card, we're going to see what people have a bias, right? We see what we want to see, we see what we expect, we're biased. And a lot of the times we're not clear about what our bias is. And I think that's what we're up against when it comes to clarification cards. Because if I'm thinking this is bad, and I take a card for clarification and get the Hierophant reversed, oh no, I'm ignorant. I don't really know what I'm talking about. So I think there's a danger with looking for a card for clarification that all it's going to do is confirm what you already thought. And I think the better solution is to work with the cards that come up and figure out what they're about, and then forget about clarification cards. So with the Tower reversed, this is I don't know, I should have asked the question and I didn't, and I'm assuming that this is about Anne herself. So we got the Tower in the past. So something went wrong. There was an upset, there was a disagreement, there was a separation, there was some kind of glitch in the matrix, we could say. So with the Tower reverse, man and a woman, maybe a relationship went wrong, there was a bust up, there was a fight, an argument, there was a split up, a divorce, a separation, something like that. Or else a plan, an idea that she had didn't work out, and it didn't work out in a bad kind of a way. Because sometimes we have a plan and it just sort of peters out. But here, with the nature of the Tower card, it was like there was a sudden break or a sudden breakdown. So she moved on, the Eight of Cups. And then she wasn't quite sure what to do. But she got it together and things got better. And so here we've got the man and the woman upside down. Here we've got the Queen upright. And I presume as a woman, right? So she, even though this happened, she ended up with good people. The Empress can represent Anne herself, being sociable and good-natured and harmonious and musical and all the rest of it. But it can also represent the kinds of people she was involved with. So maybe she met new people, or she had more contact with sympathetic, friendly, sociable people. Then she's the Moon. So the Tower upside down, things break down. With the Moon, because it's upright, I'm looking at it thinking, she is the crayfish emerging from the water onto the land. So this was an upset. Now she's meant to transform, because the crayfish lives in water and it's meant to move and learn to live on land, breathing air. So it represents, in its own way, it represents transformation. So things went wrong. It didn't matter, because she met good people, or she became more productive within herself, the Empress. And then now it's time for transformation, to take her relationships, to take her nature to another level, a higher plane, or a different level. So rather than just repeat what she's been through, you do something different. But so her first steps were the Magician upright. So it looks good. So the first attempts that she makes work well. But we've got the King of Pentacles and the Ten of Pentacles. And Pentacles, as I've mentioned before, it represents money. But more importantly, I think it represents values, what you care about. So yes, it was a good start. And maybe this was it could be a new job, a new relationship, a new outlook on the world, because it's number one for the Magician. But the King of Pentacles reversed. She found that, or she will find that, the old values or normal values that she has, the things she normally cares about, are not going to work. You can't take your old opinions and old values into the future. So she'll find that if she tries to do things the old way, or the way she would normally do them, it's not going to work. She'll come up against lack of power, or she'll come up against people represented by the King who argue with her, or who try to convert her, or who try to get in her way, which, because it's followed by the Ten of Pentacles, 10 is 1 plus nothing gets you back to 1 again. But it's Pentacles, and it's a bit like this went wrong because her values were not up to date. And it's a bit like maybe you're in a relationship with somebody and you do things, let's say you always go to dinner with your in-laws on a Sunday night, and you really don't like to do that, but you do it anyway. But you've got more important things to do on a Sunday night. If you keep telling yourself that you're happy about a situation and you're not really, it's going to catch up on you. And maybe that's what the Tower represents. Things falling apart. Probably because she knows what she wants. She knows what her new values are from the Ten of Pentacles. But it's upside down. So she hasn't implemented them. And now with the Seven of Pentacles in the future, she knows some of what she wants. There's one corner at her feet. Now she's meant to take a bit of time and think through what else she wants, or what she's going to do next, or what she's going to do as well, or what she's going to aim for as well. The coin. And this, if we take it here, this Page of Cups is how these three blend. So somehow the Page of Cups is a bit like, I wasn't sure what to say about this, but then I thought it's a bit like the Page of Cups is a poet or musical, or in some way recognizes what's invisible and what you can't touch and what's kind of under the surface, and brings it into the light of day. And it's a bit like Anne, represented by the Page of Cups. It's a bit like she has to be poetic. So she has to look at the past upset and think, maybe she reads poetry, she writes poetry, she writes music, she listens to songs or gets inspiration from song lyrics or from songs themselves. With the Tower reverse and with the moon, what insight? There's a line in Cat Stevens, a song called Sitting, and the line goes, life is like a maze of life is like a maze of doors, and they all open from the side you're on. And maybe that's what she can get. So when she comes up against a closed door or a barrier, she understands, okay, the door's closed, but I open it from the side that I'm on. So maybe she gets inspiration from lyrics or from music or from poetry. And then if she starts writing poetry, it's going to help her become clear about her own ideas, as well as clear about what she's looking for in her future. So be poetic, or be maybe do meditation, something like that, where where ideas come to you, or insight appears in your mind, but rather than ignore it, you write it all down and see what you can do with it. And that's what this can be, how to deal generally with anything that ever goes wrong. You let it elevate you to a new level of understanding, but then you've got step one done because of this. So instead of then it's up to you to think about what step 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 going to be. 7, completing the steps. Okay, so that is kind of what I would make of Anne's spread. I don't know if that answers her question. Maybe she could leave a comment, but it's awkward comments on YouTube, because you leave a comment and I've got to find it again, which is difficult. So if you have something important or something serious, I don't know what I mean by important or serious, but if you want more direct communication with me, not through YouTube, use the email address in the description down below, and it's going to be easier if we can email back and forth. So thank you for watching. Hope that was okay. Can't think of anything else to say. So today's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I'll be back at the weekend. Thank you for watching and have a good day. Okay, bye-bye.